Wednesday night. Good to see you guys. I'm in a quite a somber mood. I don't know why. But tonight we're in Ezekiel 40, and we're going to probably get through 41. A lot of reading tonight. A lot of pastors don't read through this really. They just kind of, like one guy I like, just gives an overview of the next 4 chapters. But we read through the Bible chapter by chapter, verse by verse. It says on our sign. So we're going to read through it verse by verse. Okay? But it's cool. And now, last week was the chapter 38 and 39. That's what everybody wants to hear about, the end times prophecy and the Gog and Magog and all the bedlam and destruction and judgment. And today, for the rest of the book, where it's talking about the millennial kingdom, really, the temple, and all that's associated with it. So let's get started. We're going to pray and get started on chapter 40, Ezekiel. Okay? Father in heaven, Lord, thank you for your word. Thank you for these unfulfilled prophecies. All the fulfilled prophecies prove your track record, and you're not going to leave these unfulfilled, Lord. So, Lord, just I thank you that your word is true and that you're writing it on our hearts. And I thank you mostly for your son, Lord, who has he's become our mediator. He's become our go-between. He has become our king. He's become our Savior, Lord, our doctor, our peace. Lord, he is all that we need, and we thank you that you've supplied your Son for us, Lord, through Jesus. Amen. All right, so once again, Ezekiel is going to get taken away in a vision. So remember, he's like 600 miles away in Babylon. And this is, I think, the third time he gets taken to Jerusalem in a vision. All right, so this is future. This has not happened. It's going to happen, and we're looking forward to it. Verse 1, in the 25th year of our captivity, in the beginning of the year, at the beginning of the year, on the 10th day of the month, in the 14th year after the city was captured, on the very same day the hand of the Lord was upon me, and he took me there. In the visions of God, he took me into the land of Israel and set me on a very high mountain. And on it, toward the south, was something like the structure of a city. So that's cool. He took me there, and behold, there was a man whose appearance was like the appearance of bronze. So he was shimmering. He had a line of flax and a measuring rod in his hand, and he stood in the gateway. So we've seen that measuring rod before. We were going to see it in the book of the Revelation of John. This is future. And the man said to me, Son of man, look with your eyes and hear with your ears and fix your mind on everything I show you. So look, listen, fix your mind on this. For you were brought here so that I might show them to you. And here's what he wants him to do. Declare to the house of Israel everything you see. So that's just the same thing he does to us, really. So remember in they said to Jesus in Matthew 13, "Why do you speak in parables?" He answered and said to them, "Because it has been given to you to know the mysteries of the kingdom, but to them it has not been given." So God shows certain people, his children, things, and then he wants them to share. And then he goes on to say, and this is from Isaiah 6, Jesus goes on to say there in Matthew 13, "For the hearts of this people have grown dull," and here we go, "their ears are hard of hearing, their eyes they have closed, lest they should see with their eyes and hear with their ears, lest they should understand with their hearts and turn." You see, if you see and hear, then there should be a reaction. And this reaction, Jesus is talking about, that they would turn, they would understand with their hearts and turn, that I should heal them. "But blessed are you, for your eyes see and your ears they hear." So Ezekiel, look with your eyes, hear with your ears, and fix your mind on everything I show you, and then declare to the house of Israel everything you see. And so we see and hear and understand with our hearts when we turned, and that's just a common theme in the Bible. Those who have eyes to see, let them see. Those who have ears, let them hear, right? And so, verse 5, "Now there was a wall all around the outside of the temple. In the man's hand was a measuring rod 6 cubits long." Now, I think the old King James says reed, 6 cubits long, each being a cubit and a handbreadth. "And he measured the width of the wall structure 1 rod, and the height 1 rod." So it was one rod wide, 1 rod high. So a cubit, they still don't know exactly what a cubit is. So, but it is from the elbow to the tip of your hand. So for me, a cubit, that looks like 2 feet-ish, right? But they're going with the typical understood is they just say 18 inches right there. Okay, and then a span is the distance from here to here, the breadth of a hand. So, but some people think that is the span. But some people think that's a span. So anyway, it's a cubit and a span. So the biblical measurement is that could be anywhere from 20 to 24 inches. All right, so this rod that he has is roughly 10 to 12 feet long. Okay, so he's got a 10-foot rod that he's measuring stuff with, and then he measures stuff by, it's probably got marks on it, and he measures stuff by cubits, which would be 10 cubits in that rod. 10 cubits and 10 spans in that rod. Okay, so the temple has not yet been built because this is the millennial temple, okay? Moses' tabernacle, built in 1500 BC, was built according to God's instruction. God gave Moses detailed plans. Remember the posts and the rings and the brass and they had skins of animals I don't think we ever even heard of in that tent, you know. And so he's done that here. He's given detailed plans of this temple. And this is, so from Ezekiel 40 to 43, it describes the temple. Then 43 to 46, it talks about worship in the temple. And then 47 and 48, it talks about the land around the temple. And so as we go through here, this temple is way bigger than any, like Solomon's temple or Herod's temple. I think Herod tried to outdo Solomon's temple. He built it like 20 feet higher than Solomon's temple. So this thing is like 1,000 feet around the perimeter, 1,000. There's a courtyard in there that's 200 by 200 by 200 by 200. That is football field almost. It's wider than a football field, but not as long. So, and then there's a wall that's going to talk about later in another chapter. And that wall is 500 cubits, 500 rods around the temple. So that means the temple grounds are a mile square, roughly. And then this massive temple, which is almost, if you walk around it, it's 4/5 of a mile, right? Huge temple. Okay. So now, the thing is, if you say, well, we're going to build this temple in Jerusalem on the Temple Mount, you can't, because the Temple Mount, it wouldn't even fit the temple. Much less the 1,000-foot. You just have to demolish Jerusalem to build that 1 mile wall, 1 mile, 1 mile, 1 mile, 1 mile. So how's that going to happen? Okay, so most scholars believe that's a series of cataclysmic events, which it's supported. We read that in Ezekiel 39. For in my jealousy, verses 19, in the fire of my wrath I have spoken, surely in that day, this is back when we were talking about judgment on Gog, there shall be a great earthquake in the land of Israel, so that the fish of the sea and the birds of the heaven, the beasts of the fields, and all the creeping things that creep on the earth, and all the men who are on the face of the earth shall shake at my presence. The mountains shall be thrown down, the steep places shall fall, and every wall shall fall to the ground. And Revelation 11 talks about an earthquake. In the same hour there was a great earthquake, and 1/10 of the city fell. In the earthquake, 7,000 people were killed, and the rest were afraid and gave glory to the God of heaven. And then also it talks about the Mount of Olives splitting and a great valley appearing. And then I think when we were in Zechariah, we talked about that valley ran it ran hundreds of miles. Like people used it as a road to go to Israel, to go to Jerusalem. So that's how you build a big temple like that. God rearranges the landscape to get it done. It's pretty cool. God can do that. Verse 6. Then he went to the gateway which faced east, and he went up its stairs and measured so there's a lot of measurements going to happen here, okay? Then he went to the gateway which faced east, and he went up its stairs and measured the threshold of the gateway, which was 1 rod wide, 10 feet, 10 cubits. And the other threshold was 1 rod wide. Each gate chamber was 1 rod long and 1 rod wide. Between the gate chambers was a space of 5 cubits, and the threshold, which is half a rod, and the threshold of the gateway by the vestibule of the inside gate was 1 rod. So 1 rod, if we're saying that it's like 2 feet times 6, so that's like 12 feet, 10 to 12 feet. Okay, so most of these measurements, when it says 1 rod, just think about like from me to the flowers there, or maybe the fan, something like that. Okay, each gate was 1 rod long and 1 rod wide. Between the gate chambers was a space of 5 cubits, and the threshold of the gateway by the vestibule inside the gate was 1 rod. He also measured the vestibule of the inside gate, 1 rod. Then he measured the vestibule of the gateway, 8 cubits, and the gate post, 2 cubits. And the vestibule of the gate was on the inside. In the eastern gate, there were 3 gate chambers on one side and 3 on the other. And 3 were all the same size. Also, the gate posts were of the same size on this side and on that side. He measured the width of the entrance of the gate, 10 cubits, and the length of the gate, 13 cubits. There was a space in front of the gate chambers, 1 cubit on this side and 1 cubit on that side. The gate chambers were 6 cubits on this side and 6 cubits on that side. Everybody's got this pictured in their mind, right? Yes, it was like, woo. And I didn't realize how hard it was to say one rod. Say that 10 times in a one rod, one rod, one rod. Yeah, that's not easy. Then he measured the gateway from the roof of one gate chamber to the roof of the other, and the width was 25 cubits as the door faces door. So it's very detailed, and there's guys that have gone through this and drawn it. And I got a picture of it right here. It's cool, I mean, they figured it out and drew it out. And it's huge. It is huge. He measured the gate post 6 cubits high, and the court all around the gateway extended to the gate post from the front was 50 cubits. There were beveled window frames in the gate chambers, and their intervening archways in the inside of the gateway all around, and likewise in the vestibules. There were windows all around on the inside, and each gate post were palm trees. So palm trees, we're going to see more palm trees, okay? So the previous temple's built according to God's instruction. This temple's no different. It's going to be built according to God's instruction, but this one's not going to be built by men. Is that right, Bob? I believe that's right. You don't know? I don't think it's going to be built by men. So we talked about Moses' temple, the tabernacle, right? Some people, when they count the temples, they start with David's temple, which is Solomon's temple, really. But I think we should, by rights, start with Moses. So Moses' temple was a tabernacle, a tent. And then about 1000 BC, David planned and resourced everything needed for the temple, but could not build it. And why? 1 Chronicles 28, starting verse 2 through 6. Then King David rose to his feet and said, "Hear me, my brethren and my people. I had it in my heart to build a house of the rest, for the ark of the covenant of the Lord, and for the footstool of our God, and had made preparations to build it. But God said to me, you shall not build a house for my name, because you have been a man of war and have shed blood. Now he said to me, it is your son Solomon," which means what? Peace. "Who shall build my house and my courts, for I have chosen him to be my son, and I will be his father." So we had Moses' tabernacle, now Solomon's temple. And that's the one that we've been reading. We're on chapter 40 now. We read 38 chapters about the coming destruction of that temple. So that temple's gone. Okay, now verse 17, the outer court. More rods and cubits. Then he brought me to the outer court, and there were chambers and a pavement made all around the court. 30 chambers faced the pavement. The pavement was by the side of the gateways, corresponding to the length of the gateways. This was the lower pavement. Then he measured the width from the front of the lower gateway to the front of the inner court, exterior 100 cubits toward the east and north. So that 100 cubits, if a cubit was, we said, 12 feet, so that's 120 feet. Okay. Some people, now, it's not set in stone, it's not 12, it could be 10.5 to 12 feet, because we don't know what a cubic foot. And it's strange, just like in Europe, they had to standardize things. Anybody here ever work on a car? You got metric tools, and you got SAE, Standard American. What's the E stand for? I don't know either. SAE. So it's standardized, because what used to happen is, let's say Prashant's the king of Prashant land, and Ruel's the king of Ruel land. So I could go to Prashant and buy rope for a cubit. And Prashant's cubit was from the tip of his hand to his elbow, and I'd buy 1,000 cubits of rope. Then I'd take it over to Ruel, and I'd buy it for $1 a cubit. I'd take it over to Ruel and sell it to him for $1 a cubit, but his arm's shorter, So I'd pay $1,000 and I'd get $1,200 for Ruel. So we had to standardize things. So that's the problem with this whole cubit thing. It depends on how long your arm. Goliath's cubit was, it was, 2 cubits. All right, so where was I, 22? Let's start at 22. Its windows and those of its archways, and also here's palm trees again, had the same measurements as the gateway facing east. It was ascended by 7 steps, and its archway was in front of it. A gateway of the inner court was opposite the northern gateway, just as the eastern gateway, and he measured from gateway to gateway 100 cubits. The southern gateway, verse 24. After that, he brought me toward the south, and there a gateway was facing south. And he measured its gate posts and archways according to the same measurements. There were windows in it, and its archways all around were like those windows. Its length was 50 cubits, and its width 25 cubits. 7 steps led up to it, and its of course 7, and its archway was in front of them, and it had palm trees, again, on its gate posts, one on this side and one on that side, and there was no gateway in the center court facing the south, and he measured from the gateway to gateway toward the south 100 cubits. So, okay, previous temples were built according to God's plan. This temple's no different. In 516 BC, God instructed a pagan king to set a decree to rebuild the temple and eventually the wall around the city. So God told Cyrus the Great to have the Jews go back, rebuild their temple, then go back and rebuild their wall. Just like God told Moses, build a temple this way. God told David, Solomon, build a temple this way. God told Cyrus the Great, have him go rebuild the temple. And so Zerubbabel's temple was built in 516 BC, but it was a shadow of the former, like Solomon's temple was glorious. And so you remember the story when Zerubbabel's temple was built, all the young men were cheering like, yeah, the temple's built, yes, go Israel, But the old men wept because they had seen Solomon's temple. And this was a shack, right? So, verse 28. Then he brought me to the inner court through the southern gateway. He measured the southern gateway according to the same measurements. Also, its gate chambers, its gate posts, and archways were according to the same measurements. There were windows in it and its archways all around. It was 50 cubits long and 25 cubits wide. There were archways all around, 25 cubits long and 5 cubits wide. Its archways faced the outer court. Palm trees again were on its gate posts, and going up to it were 8 steps. So it was 7 steps, now it's 8 steps. And he brought me into the inner court facing east. He measured the gateway according to the same measurements. Also, its gate chambers, its gate posts, and its archways were according. I'm starting to think about cookies. Archway. And its archways were according to these same measurements, and there were windows in it and its archways all around. It was 50 cubits long and 25 cubits wide. Its archways faced the outer court, and palm trees were on its gate posts on the side, on this side and on that side, palm trees again, and going up it were 8 steps. Then he brought me to the north gateway and measured it according to these same measurements, also its gate chambers, its gate posts, its archways, and it had windows all around. Its length was 50 cubits and its width 25 cubits. Its gate posts faced the other court. Palm trees were on its gate posts and on its side, and on that side going up to it were 8 steps. Now this is interesting to me, that this is God. He's laying out the plans for this future millennial temple. And he's got palm trees on it. That's cool. Like, what's the palm trees symbolize? We're going to find out. So there was a chamber, verse 38, and its entrance by the gate posts of the gateway where they washed the burnt offering. Now this is interesting. This is the future millennial temple. Millennial temple. This is after Jesus' return. Okay. For 39, in the vestibule of the gateway, there were 2 tables on this side and 2 tables on that side, on which to slay the burnt offering, the sin offering, the trespass offering. At the outer side of the vestibule, as one goes up to the entrance to the north gateway, were 2 tables. And on the other side of the vestibule of the gateway were 2 tables. 4 tables were on this side and 4 tables on that side. By the side of the gateway, 8 tables on which they slaughtered the sacrifices. There were also 4 tables of hewn stone for the burnt offering, 1.5 cubits long, 1.5 cubits wide, and 1 cubit high. On these they laid the instruments with which they slaughtered the burnt offering and the sacrifice. Inside were hooks and a handbreadth wide, fastened all around, and the flesh of the sacrifices was on the table. So this is saying there's going to be offerings in the millennium in the temple. That's interesting. And that's confirmed by Zechariah, Isaiah, and Jeremiah. But wait, I thought Jesus put an end to that. Huh? Jesus put an end to that. So what's that all about? So, first of all, there will be sacrifices. This is not a miscommunication. It's not a typo. There's going to be sacrifices. But why? What's the purpose? Well, let's look at it. Well, first of all, we have a New Testament verification of that. Just read the book of Hebrews. Chapter 4, chapter 9, chapter 10 talks about those things, these sacrifices, and it talks about Jesus' sacrifice in comparison to those sacrifices. And it doesn't say that Jesus' sacrifice didn't cover the sin, but it does say that the sacrifices in the old temple, in the law, didn't atone for sin. That's why you had to do it every year. It did not atone for sin. It was like a reminder of your sin and a heads up for the Lamb who is to come. It was like there is going to be a sacrifice made that will atone eternally. And these little lambs ain't it. Okay? So we look at this. So what's the purpose of it? It's like communion. It's a remembrance. Well, here we are in the millennium, in the kingdom, praising God. It's wonderful. And this is a reminder of where we were. That's what it is. It's a remembrance. Do this in remembrance of who you were and what he did, the guy on the throne there, what he did. So that's what it's for, okay? Verse 44, outside the inner gate were the chambers of the singers in the inner court. One facing south at the side of the northern gateway, and the other facing north at the side of the southern gateway. Then he said to me, this chamber which faces south is for the priests who have charge of the temple. The chamber which faces north is for the priests who have charge of the altar. These are the, check it out, not the sons of Levi, the sons of Zadok. From who the sons of Levi who come near the Lord to minister. From the sons of Levi who come near the Lord to minister to him. So, sons of Zadok, write that down. We're going to talk more about that probably next week. Okay. Verse 47, and he measured the court 100 cubits long, and let me do this real quick. He measured the court 100 cubits long and 100 cubits wide, foursquare. The altar was in front of the temple. Then he brought me to the vestibule of the temples and measured the doorpost of the vestibule, 5 cubits on this side, 5 cubits on that side, and the width of the gateway was 3 cubits on this side and 3 cubits on that side. Then the length of the vestibule was 20 cubits, and the width 11 cubits. And by the steps which led up to it, there were pillars by the doorposts, one on this side and one on that side. So if there were anyone in here with that kind of a mind that is building this thing in their mind as I'm reading it, you got to get a better job than what you got. But check it out. So we talked about Moses' tabernacle. God gave him the plan for that. We talked about David's efforts to plan and resource for the Solomon's temple. We talked about the decree of Cyrus the Great to rebuild the temple and build the city wall. Then came another temple, Herod's temple. Now that wasn't a really rebuilt. He didn't demolish the post-exile temple that Nehemiah and Ezra and those guys built. He didn't demolish that. It was just like a renovation project. He just made it bigger, more glorious, and he made it beautiful. It was beautiful. Okay, so, but wait a minute. Why did he do it? Did God tell him? Nope. Was there some kind of prophecy like Cyrus the Great? That was a prophecy, Daniel's prophecy. And that was, the purpose of that was to set a clock in motion for when Jesus' triumphal entry into Jerusalem. So when the decree was set forth to rebuild the temple, it started that clock ticking to Jesus' triumphal reentry. But Herod, why did he remodel the temple? It was just for political favor among the Jews. It took 46 years. And he was a builder. He built all kinds of great things in Israel. Caesarea, I think didn't he build the whole city of Caesarea just like this amazing project? He wanted to do something that rivaled the grandeur of Rome. Okay? But there is no biblical evidence that God put it in his heart or instructed the temple to be beautified. Okay, so, and I've heard some people say that Jesus and Joseph probably worked on that temple because they were carpenters and craftsmen. But there's no evidence of that. So, but what we do have is Acts 7:48 says, however, the Most High does not dwell in temples made with hands. As the prophet says, heaven is my throne and the earth is my footstool. Remember when David said he wanted to build a temple for the footstool of God? So God have a footstool. But look at this temple, though. So we got Herod's temple, which I'd say is like a facade of a temple. But Jesus raised the temple, right? Mark 14:58. We heard him say, I will destroy this temple made with hands, and within 3 days I will build another made without hands. That's Jesus. That's the temple of Jesus is a temple, right? So let's go to chapter 41, and we're going to tie those ideas together. Then he brought me into the sanctuary and measured the doorpost 6 cubits wide on one side and 6 cubits wide on the other side, the width of the tabernacle. The width of the entryway was 10 cubits. And the side walls of the entrance were 5 cubits on this side and 5 cubits on the other side, and he measured its length 40 cubits and its width 20 cubits. Also, he went inside and measured the doorpost 2 cubits, and the entrance 6 cubits high, and the width of the entrance 7 cubits. He measured the length 20 cubits, and the width 20 cubits. Beyond the sanctuary, he said to me, this is the most holy place. Okay, verse 5, next. He measured the wall of the temple 6 cubits. The width of each side of the chamber all around the temple was 4 cubits on every side. The side chamber were in 3 stories, one above the other, 30 chambers in each story. They rested on ledges, which were for the side chambers all around, and that they might be supported, but not fastened to the wall of the temple. As one went up from story to story, the side chambers became wider all around because their supporting ledges on the wall of the temple ascended like steps. I mean, listen to this description. Therefore, the width of the structure increased as it went up from the lower story to the highest by way of the middle one. So that sounds like it gets bigger as it goes up. Each level hangs out over the previous one. You know, that's like an upside down pyramid, kind of, you know, pretty cool, huh? And, that's weird. I never knew that, but I always describe God's economy as like everything we do on earth we have. So, like remember the food pyramid? You got, the bottom is, which they got that wrong, turns out. The whole food pyramid was wrong. But you got this, then this, then this, then this, then this. And it's the same in a hierarchy in like an organization. You got your line, like the workers. Then you got your staff. And then you got your management. Then you got middle management. And then you got the big cheese, right? So it's like a pyramid. This guy tells all these people what to do. But in God's economy, everything is on God. Everything rests on God. It's like an upside down pyramid. You got God holds everything up. And in our world, the workers hold up these guys, which hold up these guys, which gives the CEO his fat paycheck. So, nothing against getting a fat paycheck. If you just happen to be getting one, God bless you. Tithing box is right over there. Nah. So it's cool, but the way this is described, this temple, is really, it's going to be cool. I can't wait to see it. So they became wider all the way, therefore the width of the structure increased as one went up from the lowest story to the highest by way of the middle one. I also saw an elevation all around the temple. It was the foundation of the side chambers, a full rod, that is, 6 cubits high. The thickness of the outer wall of the side chambers was 5 cubits, and so also the remaining terrace by the place of the side chambers of the temple. And between it and the wall chambers was a width of 20 cubits, all around the temple on every side. The doors of the side chamber were opened on the terrace, one door toward the north and another toward the south, and the width of the terrace was 5 cubits all around. All right, verse 12. The building that faced the separating courtyard at its western end was 70 cubits wide. The wall of the building was 5 cubits thick all around. 5 cubits thick. That's like 10 feet, right? 8 to 10 feet. The wall of the building was 5 cubits thick all around, and its length 90 cubits. So he measured the temple 100 cubits long, and the separating courtyard with the building and its walls was 100 cubits long. Also, the width of the eastern face of the temple, including the separating courtyard, was 100 cubits. He measured the length of the building behind it, facing the separating courtyard with its galleries on one side and on the other side 100 cubits, as well as the inner temple of the porches of the court. Their doorposts at the, whenever I thought about reading, I'll just read this. I didn't realize my lips were going to get numb. Verse 16, their doorposts and the beveled window frames and the galleries all around their 3 stories opposite the threshold were paneled with wood from the ground to the windows. The windows were covered. From the space above the door even to the inner room, as well as the outside and on every wall, inside and out by measure. And it was made with the cherub. Now, here we go. And it was made with cherubim and palm trees, a palm tree between cherub and cherub. Each cherub had two faces, so that the face of a man was toward a palm tree on one side, and the face of a lion was toward a palm tree on the other side. And the face of a young lion, toward a palm tree on the other side. Thus it was made throughout the temple all around, from the floor to the space above the door, and on the wall of the sanctuary, cherubim and palm trees were carved. Okay, so cherubim. So there's cherubim around the throne of God. Remember, there was a cherubim set at the entrance to the Garden of Eden, flaming sword, right? It's like unapproachable holiness of God. You see a cherubim, halt! You're not going any farther, right? Okay, so the cherubim is symbolic of the holiness of God, unapproachable holiness of God. Okay, but it has two faces, a man and a young lion, and that symbolizes the man is intelligence and the young lion is strength. So we got heavenly creatures, cherubim, and earthly creatures, the man and the lion. And what does cherubim do? They worship God day and night. And so this is symbolic of men, created beings. All of them are created beings, cherubim, man, and a lion. All created, all worshiping God. Okay? Creation worshiping the Creator the way it's supposed to be. All right, so the palm trees, what's that? So palm trees are like in the Middle East and biblically, a symbol of life, because you can go in the desert, right? And if you see a palm tree, I mean, you can say, how can anything live here? But there's palm trees and they produce fruit. Even in the desert, when you see one, it's like, oh man, you can get some water out of that thing, you know? So they're also a symbol of triumph. Like, what happened? What did they throw on the ground at the triumphal entry? Palm leaves, right? They're a symbol of righteousness. They're a symbol of life and abundance. Even in hard times, palm trees survive. And there's not going to be hard times. It's going to be, they're looking at these palm trees like a Eden-like reference, like just abundance, life and abundance, right? So, and it's also interesting to me that the face of the cherub is a lion, young lion, and a man. And so we got a man, Jesus, the Lion of Judah. And he had palm branches laid at his feet. I think that's a cool little picture there, you know? Verse 21, the doorposts of the temple were square, as was the front of the sanctuary. Their appearance was similar. The altar was of wood, 3 cubits high, and in length 2 cubits. Its corners, its length, and its sides were of wood. And he said to me, this is the table that is before the Lord. The temple and the sanctuary had 2 doors. The doors had 2 panels apiece, 2 folding panels, 2 panels for one door, and 2 panels for the other door. Cherubim and palm trees were carved on the door. Here we go. Cherubim and palm trees were carved on the doors of the temple, just as they were carved on the wall. A wooden canopy was on the front of the vestibule outside. There were beveled window frames and palm trees on one side and on the other. On the sides of the vestibule, also on the side of the chamber of the temple, and on the canopies. So, chapter 42 next week is going to continue with more temple dimensions. I may not read all of them because that was tedious. What was it? It was a little tedious. I may not read them all next week, but it's going to continue. And so it's cool, though. We're talking about a temple that Ezekiel sees in a vision of a temple that has not yet been built. It's a millennial temple after the second coming of Christ. It's the final temple. Okay, we saw Moses' tabernacle, David, Solomon's temple, Zerubbabel's temple, Herod's temple. Well, there's going to be another temple still to come. So there's two more temples still to come. The Antichrist is going to kind of make a deal for the Jews to build a fifth temple, right? And then we talked about the temple that is Jesus. And the only reason I'm saying it's really not an accepted theological, like doctrinal statement to say Jesus is a temple, except that he said, you know, what did he say up there? I will destroy this temple made by hands and raise one that's not made with hands, right? And he's talking about himself. So I'm going to go ahead and say that Jesus is kind of calling himself a temple there. But the value of the Jesus, when he died, the veil was torn in two. And so he is kind of a temple in the sense that we can walk through Jesus into the most holy of places, into the presence of God. He is our doorway into the presence of God. Without him, we had to go through all this temple stuff and these priests. But Jesus tore the veil. So if you wanted to walk into the Holy of Holies, you would have had to walk up the steps into this level, go up the next steps into that level, go up the next steps into that level, go through the door into the court. They go through that door into the it's not the holy, it's the most, it's the whole, what's it called? The holy, right outside the Holy Holies. Holy place, just holy place. Into the holy place, and then into the holy, that's what you had to do to get in the presence of God, and then you die, because you weren't allowed to go in there. And Jesus tore that veil in two. So we don't have to walk through that temple, all those levels. We just go to the King, and we're in the presence of God. So that's cool. And we're going to wrap it up with another temple for 1 Corinthians 3, verse 16, 17. Do you not know, this is talking to us, that you are the temple of God and that the Spirit of God dwells in you? If anyone defiles the temple of God, God will destroy him, for the temple of God is holy, which temple you are. That's you. You're holy. God bless you guys. Father in heaven, thank you for your word. Thank you for all this Ezekiel, these imagery and the prophecies yet unfulfilled that we got to look forward to. We thank you for this church body and all you're doing. And Lord, just help us to remain faithful and just teach your word, Lord. Through Jesus, amen.